All right, welcome everybody. I'm your session moderator, Molly Letterman. I'll be moderating the chat if you have any questions or technical problems. I just want to remind everyone to stay muted throughout the presentation. You can post questions to the chat as we go, and then we'll address all of them at the end, and I'll be making sure to monitor the chat and make sure all your questions get addressed. Closed captioning is available. We'll start the line transcript right now. And if you have any questions, make sure to put those in the chat as well. So I'm excited to introduce this session. We have Robert Hilliker and Steve Chudnik talking about evolving strategies for sustainability, ecosystems, workflows, and tools. So I'll turn it over and you can take it away.
Thanks, Molly. All right, Steve, why don't you kick us off?
All right, so I'm Steve Chudnik. I am the project coordinator for the Open Textbook Collaborative, which we'll talk about. We were hoping to have our project director here, Marilyn N. Ochoa. She was unable to make this, unfortunately. So I'll be covering some of her material as well. So if I start tripping over my own words, you'll know that wasn't one of my planned slides. So what we want to talk about is ecosystems, workflows, and tools in relation to sustaining an open textbook collaborative grant program. So at the Open Textbook Collaborative in New Jersey, we were awarded that $1.44 million 3-year U.S. Department of Education FIPSE grant. And for those of you who don't know FIPSE, it's the Fund for the Improvement of Post-Secondary Education. And the goal of our grant was to create, disseminate, sustain, and incorporate OER into high-cost STEM career and technical education programs. So basically, we were looking for ways to bridge achievement gaps and help minority students, underserved students into high-paying careers in New Jersey. That's basically the gist of our grant. So we got together, Middlesex College took the lead in this grant, and they are leading a consortium of 17 of New Jersey's county colleges, and also our 4-year partners, Rowan University, of which Rob Hilliker is from, and some of our other big institutions in New Jersey, Rutgers, NJCCC. In addition to the higher ed sector, we also needed to work with various how would you say, collaborators across all sorts of fields, workforce development, technology, shared resources, all the way. So we were looking to find collaborators across community and faith-based organizations, state and local governments, and business and industry. And one of the interesting things about New Jersey, unlike some other states, like I always compare us to our next door neighbor in New York, who has SUNY and CUNY. In New Jersey, there is no system, no formal higher ed system like that. So it's people pursuing multiple agendas, multiple bureaucracies. So getting anything done at the statewide level takes a little bit extra planning. And so we needed to take that into account when we wanted to build this grant. So we consciously aligned our goals with that of the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, who were in the midst of doing their Pathways to Career Opportunities initiative. So what we mean by the Pathways to Career Opportunities is they were looking to improve workforce participation, especially from students at the community colleges. So hence New Jersey Council of County Colleges, kind of a quasi-governmental organization made up of presidents, IT people, chief academic officers of the community colleges, and they kind of get together and lobby lobby the state government to try and get things done. So as they did their workforce study and partnered with New Jersey Workforce Development, they came to the conclusion that the 4 growth industries that we need to look at in New Jersey are energy and infrastructure, health services, innovation and technology, and global manufacturing and supply chain management. So what we at the Open Textbook Collaborative decided to do was, let's look at the base courses you need to start to get your education in these fields and in these industries. Something like calculus or something like a course on business and supply chain management. So we said we're going to set out to produce OER for that. And the grant just took off from there. If you can hit the next slide,
Sure.
we'll show our five ways we kind of framed what we want to do to make this a successful project and a sustainable project. First thing, and we'll talk about this at length later, is we needed to create communities of practice to work throughout these 4 career and technical education industry sectors. Again, the health services, global manufacturing and supply chain management, innovation, technology, et cetera. Once we have these communities of practice in place, we will have them working on creating high quality OER course textbooks and ancillaries in the highly enrolled STEM Perkins Gateway courses. Again, what this does is try and tackle the achievement gap, hit the underserved communities, and put everyone on an equal playing field at the start of their education. Now, in order to do this, we needed to create also an information technology infrastructure, tools of the trade, so to speak, as we'll talk about later. So we established an open source, open publishing platform, which has peer review and versioning functionality in what we call our Open NJ repository. And this is where, once you work with some of your OERs, you put it in that repository, other people from around the state can then go in there and adapt it and do things for their own usage. Not only do we want to establish something just for New Jersey, but we have the ambitious goal of creating a national CTE course OER collection to share OER materials. And that's why we're coming out to speak at conferences like this one, Open Ed all over the place, and things like that. And finally, the last goal of the grant, we wanted to expand these project outcomes through professional development and expansion of open textbooks at 17 New Jersey community colleges and beyond. So as you can see, all these things that we're putting together kind of has that overall theme of, okay, we can do it, we can build it, but we also want to be able to sustain it. And now I will turn it over to Rob for how we are planning to sustain it.
All right, thanks, Steve. So as Steve mentioned, Rob Hilliker, I'm at Rowan University where I'm the Associate Provost for Libraries, but on the grant, I am the Curriculum Council Manager. So, part of what we wanted to really hit on this theme of sustainability, right? One of the goals of our project is to take this 3-year injection of funds from the Federal Department of Education and turn it into something that's a sustainable initiative. And so in order to do that, we've really been thinking, in these 3 buckets that overlap where, there are workflows. So what are the processes that we're going to use to develop these things? And Steve's going to break that down a little bit more later, as well as introducing some of the tools we're using. But I'm going to focus on ecosystems. And, Steve can tell you, I even though my background is actually in comparative literature before I became a librarian, I am very much into thinking about ecosystems. And I love to read, journalists like Ed Yong, who teach us about the complex ecosystems, whether it's our microbiome in our gut or, what's going on in a coral reef. So let's talk about the ecosystems that we're building here in New Jersey to make sustainable OER. The first thing we're doing, and this was part of our alignment with the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, is developing support teams in each industry area. And this is part of leveraging partnerships in the community also with industry groups that are developing careers for people and need skilled employees, right? So they have an interest in seeing these CTE programs in the county colleges and universities develop. And, we're doing that through the curriculum committees, which are made up of librarians, but also people who are either faculty who teach in these areas or partners from elsewhere who have the area expertise to help be able to solicit people who can create content in one of these areas, or also evaluate the content then that's produced on the other side of the production workflow. And so having rich support team has proven to be, frankly, a challenge in a time of COVID, right? To get people to kind of come out and get together. But the fact that we can all get on a WebEx also or a Zoom, right, lowers some barriers as well. So we've been able to develop curriculum councils in each of the 4 areas that we're targeting, and really solicit a lot of interest in applications, and you'll see more about the results later. So those are the curriculum council teams. But they extend, beyond people who are standing members of those committees out to faculty and others who are involved. And then we have this broader group, the advisory council, which has representation from all of the institutions and external partners that are part of this grant. And that's, getting us to this broader reach by really having representation, things like NJ transfer. So for a lot of folks, and you may well be aware, whether you're at a community or county college or at a state institution, a big deal is being able to have students transfer smoothly between institutions. And so one of the big things for us is, well, if this is going to be sustainable, it needs to be something we can pilot at one institution, run at other institutions, and have people be able to, have those courses evaluated so that they can transfer those credits. So this is one of the things that we're looking at as we try to develop this OER is through partnering with them, really think about how do we target the places in the chain towards a degree, whether it's the associates or the bachelor's or beyond, that puts people in a position, to make use of this degree. And, let's see, moving on to the next slide, right? So in each of these 4 areas, energy and infrastructure, health services, global manufacturing, supply chain management, innovation, technology, we've built teams in each of those areas where part of the recruiting goal too, and I want to be clear about this, there's so many ways for faculty and community partners to engage in this grant program, because let's say you're a faculty member who doesn't have the bandwidth to create an open textbook, then you could be involved in evaluating a textbook or piloting a textbook once it's been completed. Or the other thing that we've done is connect interested people at different institutions to collaborate on developing an open textbook. And actually, I should be clear too, it's not just about open textbooks. We have a lot of other kinds of OER that we've been developing, and we've been getting creative about ways in which we can lower those cost and access barriers for students. And so one of the projects that we're actually have going on now is the translation of some course materials into Spanish, so that for Hispanic serving institutions, or just students who have a large number of Hispanic institutions who have a large number of Hispanic students, that will lower the barrier for success in that class for those students, right? So there's a range of ways in which we're intervening and really relying, frankly, on our community partners and our institutional partners to help us identify those places where not only can someone have an impact at their institution, but it lines up with things that are happening at other institutions in New Jersey. And, I just want to underline something Steve said. New Jersey has more municipalities than any other state in the country. It is a very much a home rule kind of environment, and that's why we have all these volunteer firefighters and things that other people look at and go, really, in the state of New Jersey with, however many millions of people and the densest population in the country, you still operate that way. Unfortunately, it's a reality in a lot of things, and we're going against the tide in that, and actually building these, multi-institutional collaborations, because that's the way to succeed, right? Is to have these communities of practice. And so that's where, us as the executive team, the curriculum council, and those related teams, which includes, by the way, there's production teams that have an institutional designer and a librarian dedicated to them to work on issues of licensing of content, to make sure everything could be Creative Commons licensed, and to make sure that everything is accessible, up to the highest accessibility standards, because we want to take that burden off the faculty, right? Their job is to be the content expert. We have the production experts to support them, including our partners at NJ Edge, who are a technology group here in the state of New Jersey, who provide project management support for us as well. So really, with this wide range of partners, we sort of have a wraparound set of services for faculty who want to get engaged. And we also connect them with other faculty who can support them in developing, piloting, and I want to also underline adapting and adopting existing OER, right? Several of our funded projects are actually taking existing OER and finding ways to expand and extend them so that they will work in the New Jersey environment and fit with the curriculum here in the state of New Jersey. So again, this is all ways in which we're trying to create this sustainable ecosystem through connecting all the right people and all the right organizations. So, you know, I mean, I think I've just hit on this already, right? It's relationship building. That's really what it's about. Building these connections so that there is ongoing support and ongoing development. Because let's face it, the other piece that is sometimes a knock on OER is, oh, it's stale, it's out of date because nobody's updating it, nobody's tending to it. By building these communities of practice so that folks who are teaching the same course across multiple institutions are using the same OER textbook and providing them with a technological platform where they can update it and adapt it more easily and have version control, we're creating that ecosystem that supports that renewal in an ongoing way of the content that's created. And so that's where, you know, we have these curricular teams, and we've also been working on an OER review process, right, just to make sure that everything that goes into the collection is really up to the standards in terms of accessibility, in terms of the curriculum materials itself, and then also in terms of licensing to make sure there are no hiccups, that things are truly open and, you know, under the appropriate Creative Commons licensing. All right, Steve, it's over to you to talk about workflows.
Yeah. So first I wanted to, you know, add a little bit to what Rob was saying about the ecosystems and the communities of practice. I mean, pretty quickly after I signed up to work on this grant, I started thinking to myself, it's not going to be just about producing the textbook. There's so much that's surrounding it, and you have to build that, and you have to make it easy for faculty who, let's face it, they have their full-time jobs being faculty. And I know we're giving grant support and stipends for them to participate in OER, but especially doing this in the midst of a pandemic, we quickly found people's time is limited. So let them be the subject matter experts and just put everything else around them that they need to succeed in this. And that's kind of what we tried to do. So one of the ways we needed to really think was about workflows. How are we going to do this work? And in a previous life, I do have some project management background. So I was able to think in terms of workflows and charts and everything like that. So as we got more in the grant, Marilyn, Rob, myself, other folks on the executive council, we started working and really thinking seriously about workflows. So we came up with expectations and a way of doing things for faculty, what's expected of faculty, what they need to do so they know from the outset, these are some things you're going to have to work on. You're going to have to attend some meetings with our instructional technologists just to keep on track. We're going to have to get a place where you're going to put all your documents and so forth, where people can get in there, check it in, check it out, look at it, things like that. You know, and for the support people who are there to help the faculty, such as the instructional designers and the librarians, they have their own workflows as well, their own specific tasks and responsibilities. So they needed to be aware of that as well. So because we are in such a distributed environment, hey, I'm actually working on a New Jersey project from North Carolina, and we're talking about 17, 18 institutions across the state. People have to have a place to go and know what they want to do before they get to their work. So next slide, please. So one of the key things I learned in my project management days was about continuous process improvement. And that's like a business buzzword. So the way I like to try and explain it, I put some of my history background into it. I remember reading some military history, and generals were saying, you can come up with the best plan for a battle or a war or something like that. But the second the armies clash, you need to be able and ready to adapt on the ground, because the best laid plans, you know, often don't survive the first 10 minutes of actual reality. So with that in mind, we keep thinking we need to continually assess our processes. We need to do continuous process improvement and build time and an infrastructure to do that. So we had our diagrams and charts of workflows that we wanted our faculty, our instructional designers, our librarians to work with. So we made these available in our online repository, which we'll talk about later as one of those environments and tools for collaboration. And we continually updated these diagrams and charts and made it easy for other people to work with. So if you're going to change a process, so maybe we had librarians stepping in at a certain point to check for copyright or check for images, we soon learned that, hey, maybe we need to do that a little bit sooner than we had thought for the first couple of rounds. So you go in, upgrade your charts and diagrams, put that new workflow step earlier on, and you have a new process that can be then passed on to anyone looking in on the project. So not only do we do our own evaluation of our own selves and our own processes, but as part of the grant, you are required to have an external evaluator. In this case, we have, I think Ellucian is the company that's doing it. And they come in, look at our processes, and they have their own way of evaluating things. And that also changes over time. I mean, within the first year, we had switched to a second evaluator. It's just one of those things that happen. You have to be continually prepared when doing a project of such a distributed nature that things are going to change and you can continually improve your processes. Because let's just face it, sometimes the first idea is not the best idea. So along with that, what you have to really stress in people is, hey, I don't have all the answers. I need to be flexible. And, you know, we're at the top of the food chain and the executive team. We need to be flexible. If a faculty comes to us and says, oh, first I wanted to do 6 chapters and I wanted to include lectures, PowerPoints, videos, and I can get this done in 1 semester. Somewhere along the way, life happens and they're like, no, I think I'm going to do 4 chapters and I can't get it done by the end of the semester. So you have to adjust, you have to push things forward, and you need to build this into your thought processes, and you need to have an infrastructure that allows for that. So that's where we go to our tools of the trade. Thank you, Rob. You are reading my mind. So as a way to keep everybody in the same page, because we are doing collaborative work, we put together 3 kind of areas. So we have open publishing, which is what I talked about earlier. That is the tool that you can use once you create your OER or adapt your OER. You put it into open publishing. We produce metadata. We give it a home. Generally, that home is going to be at the bottom of here where you see OpenNJ. That's the Open Educational Resource Repository, which we can pull up later for you. So they're kind of linked together, Open Publishing and OpenNJ. But Open Publishing allows you to create versionings, download materials, kind of have, if you have a textbook, you can do the page flipping things. So it's a place where people can easily go in, look at what's out there in OpenNJ, and then adapt and do whatever they need to do for the work. So it's tools that, yeah, openNJ.net/OTC. That is the OpenNJ repository. We also built out an open textbook collaborative website based on a LibGuide. I think Rob could put that address in there too. That is all the front-facing information for people who are looking to get involved in the project. That'll have project proposal forms, current proposals, current projects that are being worked on, all the information you would need when you want to push something out and get the information. Kind of what a website does for things. So between the Open Textbook Collaborative, the Open Publishing, and the OpenNJ, that's a lot of our front facing, but it didn't really tackle the problem of how we're going to do the work behind the scenes. And that was challenging because, you know, if you're looking at multiple colleges, everybody has their own IT, and everyone's own IT departments have their own ideas about security and things like that. So the thing we ended up settling on was Middlesex's Office 365 SharePoint with the planner and the teams and all of that. And I have to admit, it's caused some more hiccups than we would have liked. But we basically got it where everybody now has the ability to work within that system and to be able to collaborate with folks all over the place, all throughout the state and beyond. Took a little bit while to get going, but I think it's working pretty smoothly now. Do you have any other comments about that, Rob?
No, I mean, I was just going to say, you know, we actually made this presentation in Office 365 and did some collaborating on it. So I know people are probably more familiar with Google Drive, but once you get the hang of it, there's actually a lot to be said for the workflow integrations that you can get with the Office 365 with Teams and so on. So
I really wanted to use the icons for Planner and Teams, but you did remind me that even though somebody slapped a Creative Commons license on it, Microsoft might not want us doing that. Okay, so yeah, I think we're on to one of our later slides. When you put all this together, what we were talking about, the ecosystems, the tools, what is our goal here? We are creating OER textbooks, OER ancillaries, trying to help students get into high-paying careers. But what happens at the end of a grant? You know, it's 3 years of funding from the federal government. And then what? You just want to just put it out there and just not have anyone be able to do anything with it afterwards? No, you need to plan for what's going to happen after the grant ends. So as we go along, building our repositories, building our courses, we are continually promoting replicable practices. We want to show faculty, here's what you need to do to adapt a course. Here's what you need to do to add this piece or that piece. And when we're no longer there to do that, that's something they can take and do again because they'll know how to do it. The OpenNJ, the OTC website, and open publishing will continue to be supported in some way, some fashion. It'll still be there. It may not look or have as much participation in it as now, but you'll still be able to get in there, do the work, adapt other people's work, and things of that nature. So to go along with keeping the ecosystem and the environment alive, we plan to have standalone professional development that will outlive the 3 years of the grant. So if we produce courses, we have an OER of ABCs in there now. We have, we're working on a course on how to work in open publishing and how to work in OpenNJ. That'll all be there. Once I'm gone, that'll still be there for people to work with. And the other piece for post-grant sustainability is always targeted marketing and advertising. I'm working right now with a media company. We're going to put together some videos that will promote what we are doing and just keep it at the forefront. And it'll be ways to hear from actual participants in the project itself. They can take this back to their faculty at their institutions, show a quick video, and you can get more people involved in OER that way, and maybe use some of the courses that we've produced over the course of our 3 years just to keep things going and going and going.
I mean, I think just to jump on Steve's comments here too, right? Part of why we're here is promoting the infrastructure that we're creating and encouraging, you know, others to partner with us and to, while OpenNJ is obviously branded as a state of New Jersey project, there's nothing that says that we can't have OER from other states in the repository. In fact, in some cases, you know, what we have in the repository is adaptations of things that might be in one of your state's repositories of OER. That's the beauty of the Creative Commons licensing and of making things open, is that ability to remix and update and adapt. But, you know, I want to add too, the OpenNJ platform existed prior to this grant.
Yes.
It's a project that's supported out of Middlesex, but by a consortium of New Jersey academic libraries. At this point, I think all but 2 of the academic libraries in the state of New Jersey actually have a system for depositing OER from their institutions in OpenNJ. So there is this groundswell of support that will continue to exist in all our partner institutions, many of whom, and you know, Rowan is among them, have their own programs for giving out small scale grants to support the development of open textbooks or textbook alternatives. for their, that can be used locally, but now through this platform with the technological enhancements that we have developed through the grant program, folks will then be able to better and more easily adapt it for use in those other programs.
Yeah, and I think one of the goals at the very beginning of Open Textbook Collaborative was that one of our draws was, hey, we have better ways to provide stipends to faculty than our partner institutions do. It's a lot easier for faculty to work with the Open Textbook Collaborative because we have instructional designers and librarians ready to work with them, and curriculum managers, so they don't have to take the resources of their home institutions, which are pulled in 6, 7, 8, 26 directions. We're basically focused on this one thing. And to kind of sum up before we go to our Q&A, or I think Rob was going to show us.
I'm sorry, I jumped on the slide there, but yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to end up with, when you're doing a project of this size, it's not just about your end product. It's also about building strategies and forward thinking to the point of how are you going to create and sustain. You have to create all that and think about that beforehand. What Rob has brought up now is one of our more interesting projects. It's called the OER Virtual Microscope, and this is being used right now, piloted at the County College of Morris in several different biology classes. And what it allows you to do is take slides from any number of classes. And this was especially helpful during a pandemic or situations like that. So you don't actually need to be physically using a microscope to have the experience of using a microscope. So how are they explaining it to us? So even if you were in a physical lab with a physical microscope, with the OER virtual microscope, you can then go back home and study at 2 in the morning, like a lot of people have to study, and kind of you're replicating the same experience of focusing, zooming in, zooming out, and looking at all the different slides. And as Rob said, actually a meeting I have later is with somebody who is taking the idea of the virtual microscope and implanting a lot more different slides in it. It's very customizable, and he's from a different institution. He's going to use it to work with his materials and such. Rob, I don't know, did you put the cool music on or no?
There's the music. I don't know if you can hear it, but
it's the best.
You do have this nice button where you can turn it off though as well. And here's your credits for it's not loading properly, but no, here they come.
They come. It takes a little while.
It takes a little while.
Hey, there's my name.
There you are, sir. All right. So that's just a fun little show and tell of that particular project. But let's go back and see if folks have questions.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping we have some questions to answer.
Yeah, so go ahead and you can throw questions in the chat. You can raise your hand to unmute if it's easier for you to ask your question in person. Any questions people have? And while we're waiting for people to type their question or formulate their question, I just want to emphasize one thing that really struck me is the points you were making about legacy access to content. Because sometimes with OER, a faculty member will create something and you have this final end product, but then when it needs to be updated, when it needs to, changes need to be made, over time, if you don't have access to that original document or the original things that it came from, you're kind of lost. So making sure that I think that was, it seems like this project was very thoughtful in making legacy access. Was that part of?
Yes. That is part of what's going on behind the scenes with the open publishing tool and in OpenNJ. The metadata schematics we put behind that and kind of blew my mind. It's beyond regular cataloging. I was just, it's all different templates you can use, and it's a very powerful tool.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, but like you said, you have to thoughtfully plan for when you're not there, because you don't just want OER to be a fad of the month. You want it to something that's going to be helping people going forward.
I mean, I think one of the great things too, the repository architecture that it's built on is an open source tool called SOBEC. But it's nice because it was developed at is it Florida State or University of Florida? But it's
Gainesville, University of Florida.
there we go.
That's why I got the orange up there.
Nice. So anyways, so you know, they actually it's one of these open source projects where there are people who have really deep expertise in it and can work, you know, as consultants and support us in building out this functionality because they understand the underlying architecture of the system. So to be able to leverage that into, you know, really making this a publishing tool, not just a repository, has been a huge, you know, a huge factor in our plans and hopefully our success, you know, ongoing past the term of the grant.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an incredible project. So any other questions or more information, other things people want to know?
One of the things we do is, I don't know if we have it up here, I think it was on the last slide. We do hold weekly office hours, Thursdays at noon, if anybody is interested.
Sure, let me get
We
back
kind of
to
took that idea
slide.
from our friends at Libre Text, doing that, our friends Delmar and his cohorts. So there it is, up bit.ly/discuss OTCNJ every Thursday at noon.
There
Oh,
we
that's
go.
great. So anyone could join in and
Yep.
and ask questions.
Thursdays at noon, and I should say noon Eastern in case we have
Oh
folks from other time
yeah,
zones.
Oh.
keep forgetting that.
Right,
Mhm.
but yes. And that's a link that takes you into our Zoom office hours.
Yep.
Great.
So
Yeah, please feel free to check out our website or either the OpenNJ or the LibGuide.
and actually, I should touch on this too, because one of the things we've done is go to conferences specifically for faculty who are teaching in these subject areas that we focused on, and do outreach. And we've had interest from faculty in neighboring states, you know, New York and Pennsylvania, Delaware, and so on. And if you have faculty who you think would be interested, you know, check out the website, see the courses that we're mostly looking for, or we're also interested in adjacent courses. If you have faculty who maybe could connect with someone in the state of New Jersey, I mean, that's our one qualification. Somebody on the project team needs to be in New Jersey for us to fund the project, but that doesn't mean there can't be partners from outside the state who are interested in also developing and piloting some OER. So, Steve, what's the deadline for our next round? I think it's later in October.
I think October.
I want to say 20th.
Something like that. Yeah.
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 Anyways,
It's
so
flexible.
that's true.
It's flexible.
Just to give us enough lead time to prepare, so we get our advisory council involved in all the decisions on which projects to fund.
Yeah, I just wanted to, before we wrap up, thank you for that comment, Colleen. And that's kind of what we set out to do. We know in our state, the institutions, it's kind of hard to kind of get things through. Maybe you're interested in OER and maybe you have 3 or 4 other people that are, but the 100 other faculty don't. And they're not going to spend their time working on that with you. You can come to us and we'll work with you to put a project together. And we can then take it back to your institution and kind of help you along there as well. Trying to convince other people. We do that outreach. We do that professional development too.
That's amazing. I'm like, oh wow, what if every state had an organization like this? Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, any other questions or comments? I know you're getting lots of thanks in the chat for a great presentation. I think all of us have a lot to think about and explore with all of these, all of the great resources that you shared. So if there aren't any more questions, I just want to remind everybody that there is the 2 p.m. wrap-up session. I know there's been like a lot of side conversations about various presentations, and they're going to kind of bring together everything that we've been talking about over the last 2 days. So don't miss that. Any other last questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you so much, Robert and Steve. This was great. I know I took a lot away from it, and I think everyone else did too. So thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Molly.
Yep.
Always a pleasure to share what we've been up to and have a great audience.
Yeah,
Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend, everybody.
you too. Bye.
All right. Well done, Steve.
You got it. All right.